Hey guys, this is Melissa with Love Covered Life, and today I'm going to do a Q&A video on a variety of questions that have come up in my comments this week. My channel, as it is growing, which is awesome, comments are starting to come in faster now than I am able to keep up with them, and I have loved being able to respond to every single comment, and I'm still doing my best to keep up with that. The comments section is the best part of this channel, and I need all of your help to keep it that way. I love having a wide variety of views expressed in my comments and discussion on all sides of issues. Let's keep discussing, guys. Keep the comments and questions coming in. Keep sharing your stories. I want my channel to be a safe place for you guys to share your thoughts and opinions, but let's make sure that we all keep it kind and respectful. I want to thank you guys again quickly for all the questions that you send in. Whether you are asking questions because you legitimately want an answer from me, or if you're just asking for the sake of discussion, interaction, or even debating. I love discussion and I love getting your questions. And one of the things that allows me to really put the time into answering you guys one-on-one is that I can take those answers that I give you and make videos out of them. First question: do I believe that all roads lead to God? And the short answer is yes, I do. This would have been heresy in the group that I was raised with, because Jesus claims to be the only way to the Father and the way, the truth, and the life. But the way that I look at it is that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, because he is the perfect expression of God, and God is life, and God is truth, and God is the way. God is the only truth, and God is the only way, because God is all that is. Everything that exists is a creation or an expression of God. So in reality, there is nowhere to go to get away from God. The Bible even says that God is in heaven and God is in Sheol, and there is nowhere that we can go to escape his presence. So there is nowhere to go except back to God. Ultimately, whichever path we choose to take, whether it seems to us to be the right or wrong choice now, will eventually lead back to God. And the reason for that is because the experience of free choice that we have here, the purpose of that experience of contrast or duality is to push us to awaken to an awareness of our oneness with God. So the question is, do we want to take the short road to God by accepting Jesus, accepting the truth and the way and the life of God offered to us in Jesus Christ now, or do we want to take the long way around and choose the opposite of God, choose suffering, choose the hard path? And then the purpose of that suffering is to ultimately awaken us and ultimately to push us to acknowledge God. Question number 2: how would I explain or define God? Well, the simplest explanation is God is love. But because as we as humans tend to overcomplicate things, we can hear such a simple phrase like God is love, and it can go right over our heads. Like we completely miss what it is saying because it's too simple for us to really grasp it. So what does God is love mean? The Bible also says that God is light. And the science of quantum physics is now telling us that the entire universe is made up of quantum packets of light energy. So everything is light. God is light. Everything came from God. We are all literally made out of God, who is light. The Bible says that God is one, which is a reference to his connecting, unifying, and harmonizing nature. And also a reference to the fact that, like I just said, we are literally made out of God. Everything that exists is an expression or a creation of God, made from God. So God is one means God is it. He is the being or the great I am, existing, perfect and content in his existence, and by nature of existing, he creates, he expresses himself. We are God expressing himself. That's what God's creation is, and we are all of him. We are all one with him. We all came from him and cannot be separated from him. And the Bible also says that God is a consuming fire, which means he is holy or perfect or purifying in nature. He burns away the lies and the illusions and everything that we would perceive to be the opposite of God. And this is why people both in the Old Testament of the Bible and in near-death experiences report that if they were to stand in the full presence of God in their human form, they would explode into a million pieces, or they would be burned up. He refines, he restores, he reconciles, he makes right, and anything that is not of his nature must be burned away. So what is God then? What does it mean to say God is love? It means God is all there is, and all there is perfection, harmonizing, purifying, connecting, unifying force. But not just a force, obviously. I'm grasping at words here to try to explain this. It doesn't get more personal and real than love. Love is the very conscious, aware, and personal nature of God, who is a being, who is a spirit, but who is also the source of all life and energy, and the unifying, reconciling, restoring, purifying force that is making all things right, bringing all things back into oneness with him. And that is the underlying truth of our reality. That is what this world is that we experience. Hopefully that makes sense. But if that was just like way too complicated and confusing, just bring it back to God is love. Question number 3. Can you suggest examples of Jesus revealing himself outside of Christianity? Anytime love is expressed, God reveals himself. Anytime love is expressed, Jesus reveals himself. Jesus reveals himself in the hungry person on the street and in the one who feeds the hungry person. Jesus reveals himself in the kind stranger who passes you on the road and greets you. Jesus reveals himself every time someone looks you in the eye and really sees you. Every time somebody offers you a listening ear. Jesus reveals himself every time someone fights and makes up. Every time somebody humbly apologizes and admits that they were wrong. Every time a person or a relationship is healed. Jesus reveals himself in the weakness and frailty of the sick and in the power and restoration of the healing. Jesus reveals himself every time someone experiences peace, feels joy, or expresses sacrificial love. Jesus reveals himself in the beauty of nature expressed all around us. Jesus reveals himself everywhere for those with eyes to see, and that's why he said we must become like little children and learn to see him in the least of these, the good and the bad, because like I said, it's all love. It's all made of love. It's all made of the light of God, and God is everywhere, but we will see him in the good and the bad when we have eyes to see. Because Jesus is revealed everywhere there is love, and even when there is a lack of love, that lack of love reveals Jesus to us because it shows us our need of him. Question number 4 was asked in response to a comment where I said I tend to see truths in a variety of different religions and world views. How do you reconcile all these various and contradictory truths? How do you decide which is the best or more accurate in a competing chaos of truths? The answer is that everything is reconciled through love, because God is love. The ultimate reality of this universe is love. And Jesus said that love was the sum of the entire scriptural text up until his time. Love is the measuring stick. Now, what religion does is it tries to make a mental understanding of doctrine the measuring stick. So we have a set of creeds that we hold to, and that to us is the truth. Do you hold to the virgin birth? Do you hold to the divinity of Christ? We have these lists that we make. This is the truth, and this is what we believe. And then what you end up with is thousands of different groups arguing over whose list of doctrine, whose list of truth is correct. Even when you get down to the very basic fundamentals, if you want to take the Nicene Creed, for example, and say, well, this is our truth, that probably is the best measurement of truth, a very basic truth for Christianity. Our set of doctrines and our list of intellectual beliefs are good guidelines for us to go by when we're trying to tell people, okay, here, this is what we hold to. But as soon as we start making those lists of things that people have to believe to be a part of the group, to tell them that you don't know God if you don't believe in the virgin birth, then we start running into trouble. Because Jesus said none of that. Jesus said the measuring stick was love, and love really is what unites and binds us together, and how you can start to sort through and filter through all the mental and intellectual information that comes at you from these various systems. Love is the filter. If it lines up with love, it is true. If it does not line up with love, it is not. And everything in between is just as helpful on an intellectual level, but at the end of the day, it's arguing semantics. You have a lot of people saying the same thing using different words, basically. So this is how you sort out contradictions. You listen to the still small voice of God in your heart, which always leads towards love. And there's always going to be contradictions in every single belief system. And I've had people ask me about contradictions in near-death experiences and say, well, every experience is a little bit different, so we have to reject them all because there's no way to know what's true. And usually this is coming from people with a Christian background. Well, there's like hundreds of contradictions in the Bible that Christians just explain away and honestly kind of close their eyes to sometimes. There's contradictions everywhere. That's because we are having a subjective human experience here. And contradictions are a good thing because we all have a different piece of the puzzle. So everything is never going to fit together perfectly. Even when you're studying within one specific religion, it's never going to line up perfectly. It's not supposed to. That's part of our experience here. Like we sharpen each other and we help each other grow because we see things differently. But there is always an underlying truth, and that underlying truth is love. So look for love in anything and you will not be led astray. And remember that love is not just a feeling. Love is the powerful unifying force of the universe. It is God. It is the purifying nature of God. Look for love and you'll find God everywhere. Question number 5. Do you see a difference between God creating truth and Jesus claiming to be the only truth? So Jesus claimed to be the truth. I think that claiming to be the only truth would have been redundant because there is only one truth. Really, there is only truth, but that's another discussion. God creates truth because he is truth and he is self-expressing, right? And his expression of himself is his creation. So everything that exists is truth, and it is the expression of God, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, purity, perfection, harmony, unity, oneness. That is the nature of God. That is the expression of God. That is the creation of God, and that is what exists. Jesus embodied and demonstrated and expressed God perfectly. Therefore, Jesus is the truth. The last category of questions I'm going to answer are because I keep saying that death is an illusion and the bad things that we experience here are an illusion. So I have gotten several questions on did Jesus actually die, or was it just an illusion that he died? So if Hitler exists and kills millions of people, is this reality or our misperception of reality? Okay, it's both, but this is really tricky to try to explain. The best analogy that I've come up with is to compare it to a dream. So when you're sleeping, your dream is real to you while it is happening. From that level of awareness that you are at in your dream, if you die, it's like you're actually dying. If somebody dies, it's like they actually die, and you experience that loss and you grieve. I know because I've had dreams like this. One of the worst dreams of my entire life I had was when I was a child, that my sister fell into a pit and died. And let me tell you, it was like she actually died. I mean, I woke up in tears. I was devastated. And then I woke up and it was like, oh, wait a minute, she's not actually dead. And it was like the best day of my life. While we are here, the things that happen are real. death, bodies physically die. In a sense, death is an illusion because what we are can never die. And that's what I'm saying Jesus demonstrated on the cross when he rose from the dead, that what we truly are cannot die. And he showed us that by coming back to life. But our bodies, you could argue about whether our bodies actually die in the sense that the living, breathing organism that is our body dies, yes, but then in the sense that it goes back into the ground and creates new life, and nothing is actually extinguished. It just changes form. In that sense, we could say even physical death is an illusion. The point being that in this life, it is very real. Okay, but from God's perspective, it is a dream. It is an illusion. It's something that we are collectively creating in this world, and the experience of it is very real to us here. But when we move on out of this world, we will look back and say, that was a dream. I'm going to close out this video for today. Please feel free to respond to my answers, to ask more questions, to further discuss these topics with me. Be loved, be happy, be at peace, and thank you for watching.